6:08.
So
Recording in progress.
ready? Okay. The Board of Trustees of CrystalCity Middle School District will meet in regular session 6 p.m. Monday, March 7th, 2022 in the Administration Building Board, Room 613, West Zavala, Great Crystal City, Texas 78839. And you do a roll call.
You want to call the meeting to order, if you want?
Call meeting to order.
Mr. Eric Garcia? Mr. Garcia, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Mr. Reyes Espinosa?
Here.
Mr. Cruz Mata?
Here.
Mr. Baker Bonilla is absent. Mrs. Nora Flores Guerrero?
Present.
Mrs. Melissa Marquez Guerrero is absent. And Mrs. Peggy Young? Present.
Okay, we do have a quorum. Number 3, moment of reflection. Number 4, audience to patrons. Mr. Segura, do we have any? Do we have any audience? No? Okay, number 5, we go to special recognitions, Ms. Briones.
So beginning with Dr. Tomas Rivera Elementary, Mrs. Guerrero?
We're checking to see if our student of the month is here. Our staff member of the month, yes, she's Serenity's. Our staff member of the month was too shy to come to work. The staff all vote on their staff member of the month for DTR, and this month they voted on one of our veteran teachers who's been working in the district for 20 years. She's a bilingual ESL teacher who served multiple grade levels throughout the DTR campus and was Ms. Auntie Guerrero's mentor teacher when she first started teaching. I'd like to recognize Ms. Patricia Vega as the DTR teacher. Our student of the month is a kindergarten student in Ms. Coronado's class. Her name is Ms. Serenity Trevino, and she is the most polite, respectful, helpful student we have in kindergarten. She is simply amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Serenity Trevino. Look at the camera and smile through your mask, okay? Big smile. Good job. Yeah. Want a picture, Mom? Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah. Good. Smile to the mask.
Zavala Elementary, Mrs. Lopez. Our student of the month, Ariadne Ramirez. We know her as Miss Ari. And so she is our first grade student. She is an exemplary student and displays excellent student leadership skills. She excels in all subjects and her favorite subject is math. Is that your favorite subject? Not only does Ariadne excel in her academics, but she shines as a model student in the school. Her positive attitude and eagerness to learn radiates to everyone. She is an active participant in the classroom and is eager to help her fellow classmates. Ariadne is always willing to lend a helping hand to anyone that may need it. Ari treats everyone with kindness and respect. She is also understanding and cares for her fellow peers. Ari exemplifies the attitude of Savannah Elementary.
I wonder why she likes math.
Put on.
The deck.
Of the month, or our staff member of the month, our library lady, come on over. So Mrs. Melinda Castillo was selected as our staff member of the month. She is always willing to step up to any task. She offers and presents ideas on how to get the tasks done efficiently. Furthermore, she comes up with a plan and follows through. You walk into the library when she has a class and she is teaching the way to fully engage students. She has book talks and challenges all students. She builds a love for reading for all students by building a rapport with the students and redirecting them to books of their interest. I can go on and on and on and on, but it's a long board meeting already. It's a long agenda. And I don't know if you saw those silly string videos live, and that was all her idea. How she didn't end up on there on that stage is beyond me, because that was all her. But we are grateful to have you as part of our LBZ family.
Benito Juarez Elementary, Mrs. Bermer.
Good evening, everyone. Benito Juarez has selected Mr. Jose Luis Bermea as the March Teacher of the Month. Mr. Bermea is a devoted educator with an enthusiasm for learning that transfers to all of his students. His daily routine includes greeting his students by name and welcoming them to another great day of math. Mr. Bermea is an incredible teacher that does an exceptional job of promoting positivity in the classroom and outside the classroom. Congratulations, Mr. Bermea, and thank you for being an educator. The student of the month is Matthew Alex Hernandez, a fourth grade student in Mr. Reynolds' fourth grade homeroom class. Matthew comes to school every day ready to learn. Mrs. Guerrero states, he is a model student in our math classroom. Matthew is respectful, kind, and considerate. He asks relevant questions about math as he is learning and how he will use it in the real world. Mr. Reynolds added, Matthew is a hard worker, puts forth great effort, and collaborates well with his classmates. He is a great student. Matthew.
Fly Junior High, Mr. Alvarado.
Ms. Lozano? For Student of the Month, we have Mr. Eric Garcia. Mr. Eric Garcia exemplifies what a true student athlete is, what an overall just great student is. You name it, he's involved. Student council, all sports, straight A student. I'm hearing rumbles through his mama that apparently Eric is one of those students that has never received a B in all his school career. So, you know, every day there, unfortunately I say every day there, and then today he's feeling ill. So he wasn't able to make it today, but Eric Garcia, just a great student overall, represents anything and everything that you want in a student. Next up, we have Teacher of the Month, Ms. Jessica Lozano. Ms. Lozano, if anybody's familiar with either a crew that does construction or a crew that works out in the oil field, we have these people that are called pushers. That's exactly Ms. Lozano. She is a pusher. She's my pusher in the 8th grade level. Her test scores speak for themselves. And when you talk about No Child Left Behind, Ms. Lozano is one of those, and definitely is one of those that is not going to leave a child behind. If she has to make a phone call right then and there and stop class because the student's not, Mr. Alvaro, I'm going to make a phone call because the student's not doing their work, go for it, do it. We will make a phone call right then and there. But when she, all the students, you know, it's one of those love-hate relationships where it's like, oh, Ms. Lozano is so tough and everything. And then at the end, she's the one that gets the most gifts and everything because they feel the appreciation at the end. So, Ms. Lozano.
And CrystalCity High School, Mrs. Urrabaso.
No me acuerdo.
Allison Lograña is a senior at CrystalCity High School. She is the daughter of Oscar and Maria Lograña. Our school selected Allison as our student of the month because of her many great qualities. Our student council sponsor, Coach Solonsky, states that Allison is an excellent role model and leads her class excellently. For 4 years, Allison has been the student council president of her class and is currently the CrystalCity High School Student Council president. Our sponsor for the Starlets, Ms. Salina Gonzalez, states that she is a great leader and role model to her teammates and classmates. She would go above and beyond to help dancers struggling with routines, and any chance that the Starlets had to do community service, Allison was the first one to jump on it, especially when it came to helping dogs in our community, because she is a big animal lover. Allison is also always optimistic. Allison is a member of the National Honor Society and the Girls Powerlifting team. In addition, she is a dual credit student and is well on her way to earning several industry-based certifications as a student in the Patient Care Technician program with SWTJC. We are very proud of Allison and thankful for her contributions to the success of CrystalCity High School. We wish her all the best as she moves forward with her post-secondary aspirations after graduating as a distinguished student of CrystalCity High School.
Dr. Cadena has been selected as the Crystal City High School Teacher of the Month. Dr. Cadena has been teaching at Crystal City High School for 20 years, since 2002, in the Career and Technology Department as our business teacher. Courses she is teaching this year are Accounting 1, Business Information Management, Dual Credit Business Management, and Dual Credit Personal Finance. Her classes have in the past earned Microsoft's industry certifications for both Word and Excel. This year, Dr. Cadena has taken on the responsibility of campus coordinator for the Gifted and Talented program. We plan to highlight our students on April 21st at 5 p.m. at the annual GT Showcase. Additionally, she is also the campus coordinator for our UIL academic team, which is competing at the district level on March 25th and 30th. In her 20 years at Crystal City High School, Dr. Cadena has served as the Career and Technology Coordinator for the district and campus, GT Campus Coordinator, UIL Academic Campus Coordinator, and UIL Academic Coordinator for the district. In addition, she has coached several teams in UIL Academics District Award-winning, accounting team, and computer applications and journalism. Dr. Cadena also serves in an unofficial capacity as a mentor for new teachers on campus when needed. Her colleagues state she is very knowledgeable, well-organized, a great teacher who is very helpful to both students and staff. Dr. Cadena exemplifies our Crystal City High School vision, helping build a foundation for students to be college, career, and workforce ready. For these reasons, Dr. Cadena has been selected as our Teacher of the Month. Dr. Cadena, there was a smile. Yes, I will.
Mr. Espinosa, before we move on, I was here a little late and I didn't get to say why Melissa Castillo Lozano's here. But this is Melissa Lozano Castillo, and she's gonna shadow our board meeting. She's gonna shadow a community leader. She is halfway through grad school and she's gonna become a midwife. So one of her assignments is to shadow community leaders. So I invited her to be our guest today and see firsthand what we do on the board table.
Welcome. Okay, now we're gonna move to item 6, a public hearing for the 2020-21 Texas Academic Performance Report, Tapered.
So everybody should have a copy of the district annual report. This is a required report to the community. Ms. Carlos, if somebody is missing a PowerPoint, can you help us passing them out? All of the administrators should have a copy. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get started. So I, myself, as a presenter, will be flipping back and forth between the slides and the actual report. So I just wanna make sure that I don't get you all confused in that. So the district annual report is a public hearing to be presented to the community. It is divided into 7 sections, and I will be going over the actual academic piece of it. Section number 1, the 2020-2021 Texas Academic Performance Report is presented to you in PDF format. It includes district and data for the 2021 school year. It begins, for the board, it begins after that first tab. So from beginning on page 3, all the way to page, these are the pages that I'm going to be referencing, to page 12, you will find the first section of the Tapered report. So the Tapered report, section 1, 2020-21, is compiled by TA for every district and campus using PEIMS and student assessment data, which of course we use both. It is published as a PDF. It includes a wide range of information on the performance of students in each district and campus in the state. Performance is shown disaggregated by student groups, including ethnicity and socioeconomic status. The report provides extensive information on school and district staff, programs, and student demographics. The first page on the report is the actual cover page, and if you will notice, that for the 2020-21 academic school year, CrystalCity ISD with a district number of 254901 had received a accountability rating of not rated, declared state of disaster. Inclusive in the accountability rating is a 2021 special education determination status of meets requirement. And so we don't have any other distinctions, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to pages 3 through 13. This is the actual STAR performance reported for 2021 and 2019, since accountability for 2020 STAR was canceled. All three performance rates are reported: approaches grade level or above, meets grade level or above, master's grade level. It is reported for each assessment, all grades, all subjects, all grades by subject. You also show in STAR academic growth reported for 2019 and 2018. Academic growth was calculated in reading for grades 4 through 8 and English 2. And for math, it was calculated between grades 4 and 8 and Algebra 1. It is reported by grade and by subject. Because academic growth requires consecutive years of STAR performance, it could not be calculated for the 2021 school year due to the cancellation of STAR in 2020. Academic growth is anticipated to be calculated for 2022 STAR. And so if you take a look at pages 3 through 13, you will see the data broken first by grade level, beginning with grade 3 reading. And you will see the 3 different levels reported: approaches, meets, and masters for the 2021 and 2019 school year. You will see it by grade level. You will see it by subject across the district. Beginning on page 11, what we have is the indicators for bilingual education, or English as a second language. It includes STAR performance. It's disaggregated by various programs and instructional models for students identified as current emergent bilinguals, which is the new terminology for ESLs, or English learners. It is reported for 2021 and 2019. STAR participation is also reported for 2021 and 2019. If you look at page 11 through 12, you will see that the data was collected by all subjects. And so in comparison to the state and the region, in all subjects for this very specific population, we underperformed across the 2021 school year. And the same will be the case for reading, for math, for writing, for science, and for social studies. Continuing on from pages 14 through 17, these are the attendance, graduation, and dropout rates reported for 2019-2020 and 2018-2019, which are the most recent years for which data have been reported to TEA. In these 3 pages, you will find the attendance rates, the annual dropout rate for grades 7 through 8 and grades 9 through 12, the 4-year longitudinal graduation rates, both for state and federal rates, the 5-year extended longitudinal graduation rates at the state level, the 6-year extended longitudinal graduation rate at the state level, and the graduation plan rates, both longitudinal and annual. You will also find the graduation profile for the district for 2019 and 2020 graduates. If you look on page 14, some of the data pieces that stand out is that second indicator of chronic absenteeism for the 2019-20 school year, which was the official beginning of the pandemic. Our chronic absenteeism was higher than the state and the region, and that continues to be an issue, including now. So we are addressing this with the campuses as we speak. In terms of the 4-year longitudinal rates, we are, for the class of 2020, which again was the first year impacted by COVID, at the district level, we graduated 97% of the 4-year cohort in comparison to the states, who graduated 90, and the region, who graduated 89. So our numbers for graduation were pretty steady across the continuum, inclusive of 2019. In terms of the 5- and 6-year cohorts, we are able to recover the majority of the students that are requiring more than 4 years to complete their graduation plan. So in terms of this indicator, for the class of 2020, our overall performance was at 80, and I'm on page 16, I'm sorry, 86 in comparison to the state, who were at 83.5, and the region at 83.9. Following the next 4 pages, pages 18 through 22, this is a report on college and career and military readiness. These 4 pages include CCMR graduates, college-ready graduates, career military-ready graduates. It includes also the college and career military readiness related indicators of TSIA results, the CTE coherent sequence, completed and received credit for college prep courses, the advanced placement results, the SAT and ACT results, and it includes other post-secondary indicators such as advanced dual credit course completion, graduates enrolled in Texas institutions of higher education, graduates in Texas institutions of higher education completing 1 year without enrollment in a developmental education course. So if you turn to page 18 on your reports, you will see that for the 2019-2020 school year, in terms of CCMR, our district rate was significantly lower than both the state and the region. So this is something that we need to continue working towards. If you look at the other college-ready indicators, if you move down to dual course credits in any subject, however, we do see that for the 2019-2020 school year, the district was offering dual course credits, and this is in any subject, of 38.1 in comparison to the state and the region, the state being at 24.6, the region at 24.2. So our dual credit offerings are a little bit, performance and completion in these is higher at the district level than it is in state and region. So that's something that we need to take into consideration. In terms of approved industry-based certification, another area that we need to address is the actual completion of the certification program. We came slightly under the state, but above the region. So this is something that I will be asking Mrs. Urrabaso to address in her campus improvement plan. On page 19, some points to consider is the graduation of graduates with level 1 or level 2 certificates. We came in significantly higher than the state or the region for 2019-2020. We came in at 1.5%, the state at 0.7, and the region at 0.5. And then you can see the same with advanced diplomas. We were at a 6.7, the state at a 3.7, and the region at a 3.9. So in this part of our data, our programs are looking pretty healthy. Student information, pages 25 through 28. In these 3 pages, you will find student information, including student enrollment by grade level, by ethnicity, by certain student identification indicators, and students with disabilities by primary eligibility category, and other student information, including graduation information, retention rates, and class size information. You will also find staff information, including total staff, staff by classification, teachers by ethnicity and gender, teachers by highest degree held and years of experience, experience of campus leadership staff, salary, and teacher turnover rate information. And lastly, you will find program information, student enrollment by program, and teachers by program. So if you turn to the next set of pages, I will begin on, I'm on page 23. You will find the total number of students for us, 1,829. In membership, 1,838 in enrollment. So if you have your grade levels, and so there's some things I will just highlight so that you can take into consideration. You see our grade level distribution by grade level. There are some grades where we are a little bit higher, but in most parts, in comparison to the state, our numbers are pretty consistent. There are significant there are not significant discrepancies between the district and state percentages, with the exception of grade 11, which we seem to have more participants than the state does. Ethnic distribution, clearly, our population is mostly Hispanic, so we are at an 98.5 versus the state percentage is at a 52.9. Our female and male gender categories are pretty compatible with the state. In terms of economically disadvantaged, we are significantly higher than the state. We are at an 83.3%. The state's indicators are at a 60.3%. In terms of Section 504 students, and this is going to continue being an ongoing discussion with campus leadership, we have an over-representation of 10.6% against the state at 7.2%. The same holds true for students with dyslexia, which also qualify in some instances under Section 504. We have an over-representation of 5.9% against the state's 4.5%. So again, these are just some indicators that we have to keep track of because we can't be too significantly over the state because then we are either underrepresented or overrepresented. On page 24, we have additional student information. If you look at that first indicator, this is the percent of homeless students that CCISD serves, significantly higher than the state. We were at, for the 2020 school year, 6.1%. The state is at a 1.1%. That is a significant discrepancy. The migrant population at the district level, we were at a 3.6%. The state is less than 1%. So that's another discrepancy that we have. We are Title I, so you will see that 100%. That is not a discrepancy. In terms of at risk, we are within a 5% discrepancy between the district and the state. In terms of bilingual education, we are underrepresented in the district, and that speaks to, we've done the research on this one. This is just the number of students that we have in the program is significantly lower than the state's number, so that's why you see that big 20% discrepancy. In terms of gifted and talented education, the district came in at 5.5%, the state is at 8.3%, so we do have to address the underrepresentation of gifted and talented students in the program in and of itself. This is an issue that we are going to address in both the district improvement plan and the campus improvement plan. For special education, we have a slight overrepresentation as well. We are at a 12.8%, the state is at an 11.1%, so we have to address that as well. In terms of on page 25, this is where you will see the different, the first graphic that you have there is special ed, non-special ed and special education rates. We are pretty consistent across the state with the exception of grade 8 and grade 9. So we have to look at the reasons why these students were retained in 2020 because we came in significantly higher than the state. The last graphic there is the number of students by classroom. On the following page, page 26, this is the professional staff. This is a report that we look at every year. We have a total of 151.3 staff members. Of those, 112.9 are teachers, 19 provide professional support, 12 are campus administrators, 7.5 are central administrators. We have 39.6 educational aides. When you take that into consideration, we have double, if you look at central administration, we have 7.5 against the state, or percentage-wise, 2.5% versus the state, who is at 1.2. So we have double the number of administrators at central office than the state does. So that's something that we have to revisit as well. In terms of minority staff on that same page, we are significantly higher than the state. We are at 96.7% of our teaching, of our professional staff is considered to be of minority. Teachers by sex, we are pretty comparable with the state in terms of numbers, but in terms of discrepancy, we have significantly fewer females than males teaching and more males than the state. Teachers with highest degree held, we are, in terms of just having bachelors, we are slightly higher than the state, which is good. The state is significantly higher than us in terms of masters. So that is something that we have to address also in our district improvement. In terms of teachers by years of experience, We have, and I'm going to go over the percentages, 13.6% of our teachers are considered beginning teachers in comparison to the state, which is significantly lower. So we need to have a lot of beginning support for our teachers. We have 15.1% of our teachers between 1 and 5 years of experience in comparison to the state. The state has a higher rate than us. Teachers between 6 and 10 years of experience, we are a little bit higher than the state, 24.8 against their 20.3. And teachers with 11 to 20 years of experience, we're a little bit under. We are at 24.8 of our staff against the state's 29.1. So they're pretty comparable in terms of years of experience. We're not too way off, with the exception of beginning teachers. On page 27, this is where we have the average experience. So in the district, staff between 21 and 30 years of experience, 18.2% against the state, 13.0%, I'm sorry. And over 30 years of experience, we are pretty comparable to the state, 3.5 against their 3.1. The number of students per teacher in the district is 16.2 when you average them out. And then going on into the graphics, you have the experience of campus leadership. I do want to point out those first two numbers. The average year's experience of principals in the district is 3.6. So we have a cohort of principals with limited experience that continue to need professional development. So again, that is something that we have to continue addressing in the DIB so that we can push them into the next set of years, which is where they expand between 6 to 10 years of experience as principals. The next indicator there in the second graphic, average teacher salary by years of experience. If you take a look at the entire spectrum of years of experience and you take a look at the district's salary in comparison to the state, we are significantly lower than the state across the board. So this is something that through budget workshop, we are going to have to address. If as a board, as a collective board, you want to address salary discrepancies between the district and the state, it will require budget workshops. And that is something that we can discuss later on, because this, if we want to close the gap, it's going to take between 3 and 5 years to get there, because it is a discrepancy, it's a significant discrepancy. If you look at the next set of numbers, the actual salaries, again, there's a significant discrepancy between teachers, professional support, campus administration, central administration at the district level in comparison to the state. The turnover rate is very comparable in the district as it is against the state. Okay, so that is section 1, that's all the data pieces. Section 2 are your PIMS, the financial reports. Let me just get to mine over here. So in this report, and this is going to be pages 1 of 4, I'm not going to go over all of the values, but know that for these 4 pages, 2019, 2020, it is the actual financial data for the district. It includes revenues, expenditures, disbursements, tax rates, the fund balance for 2019, 2020. It also has the 2019, 2020 actual financial data by campus, and it's presented to you as expenditures by object, expenditures by function, and program expenditures by program. So 2019, 2020 is the most recent year for which these data are available. So that is your information for the financial reports. And I'm going to move on to section 3. This is the district accreditation status. Anna did give you an insert. This is the last accreditation rating that we have for the district. This goes back to 2019. We did include in your report that for the 2020-21, there was no accountability. So, but some information for me to share with you. Each year, TEA assigns 1 of 4 accreditation statuses to each district in the state, be it accredited, accredited warned, accredited probation, not accredited revoked. As of our last rating, the CCISD is accredited. In assigning an accreditation status to a district, TA considers academic accountability ratings, financial accountability ratings, data integrity, program area deficiencies identified through results-driven accountability. Because student performance is a key indicator in the state accreditation system, TA has suspended the assignment of accreditation statuses until the 2021-2022 school year. Therefore, for the 2020-21 school year, there was no assigned accreditation. So this is the last one that we have. It's for the 2019. In section 4, you will find the campus performance objectives. These objectives were board approved in October of 2021. Each campus developed and is implementing a campus improvement plan as required by the Texas Education Code. Each SIP includes the performance objectives that are listed in your report. They are based on data analysis and needs assessments, including data reported in annual Tapered reports. Each campus periodically measures progress towards its performance objectives. Updated SIPs for the 2020-21 school year will show each campus's progress towards meeting its performance objectives, are posted on the district's website and are available for review at the district central office or at applicable campus. And of course, all of these are posted on our website. Moving on to section 5 of the report. This is our report on violent or criminal incidents, and it's a single one-pager. And so we are required by Texas Education Code to publish this annual report, a report on violent or criminal incidents that occur at each campus. The report includes the number, rate, and type of violent or criminal incidents that occurred on each campus, descriptions of school violence, prevention and violence intervention, policies and procedures used to protect students, findings from evaluations conducted under the Safe and Drug-Free Schools and Communities Act. The district's report for the 2020-21 school year is available for review at the district central office. This will be posted as soon as this meeting is conducted. So if you take a look at this report, the description of the offenses are very severe. These are severe behaviors. These behaviors, we did not have incidence reports on any. So you will see that for each campus, we reported 0% incidence on behaviors that are considered unsafe for schools. Moving on to section 6, this is the student performance in post-secondary institution. The Texas Education Code also requires that each district publish, as part of its annual report on student performance in post-secondary institutions during the first year enrolled after graduation from high school. The data are compiled by the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board and are made available to public schools. The most current report is for 2018-2019 high school graduates. Student performance is measured by the grade point average earned by 2018-2019 high school graduates who attended public 4-year and 2-year institutions of higher education in fiscal year 2019. For each student, the grade points and college level semester credit hours earned by the student in fall 2019, spring 2020, and summer 2020 are added together and averaged to determine the GPA. So if you look at the report, it's on the back of that first page. You will see that CrystalCity ISD, for 4-year public university, we had a total of 12 of our graduates enrolled in a 4-year university. We have 57 of our total graduates enrolled in a 2-year public college. We had 1 graduate that enrolled in an independent college or university. We have 0 graduates that were non-trackable. We have 48 students that were not found in any education of higher institution. And we have 118, we had a total of 118 students. So this is how our students are performing in terms of higher ed. And then on the right side, on my right side of the report, you will see the number of students that fall within the different GPAs for their first year of public higher education in the state of Texas. Section 7 is the Tapered Glossary, and so these are all the terminology that is used in the report and includes and describes the methodologies and lists all the sources for the data points in the taper. Questions about the Texas Academic Performance Report for the CrystalCity Independent School District?
Since this is a public hearing, I mean, if anybody has any questions.
They can ask.
you can ask because it is a public hearing. I don't think we have any parents or any questions from the audience, board members. Guess not, they want to go home.
We're good? All right, thank you. It's a lot, but it's our performance for 2020-21.
Okay, we're gonna be moving on to, item 7, consent action items. Ms. Remaining consent. Okay, I need a motion to approve. A, consideration to approve the minutes, for February the 5th, 2022. Motion by Nora Guerrero.
Second.
Second, Cruz Mata. Any questions? If not, or can Eric vote even though he's not, but he can. Okay, 5-0, motion passes. The other consent item is considered to approve the monthly bills for February 2022. Motion,
Again, I'll make a motion.
Nora Guerrero, second.
Second.
Cruz Mata, questions? Not, need a vote. 5-0. Okay, we move now to, 8 action items. A, discussion and consideration to approve implementing, Choose Leadership Value Program as Crystal City High School, at Crystal City High School. Ms. Verones?
So at this point, we are asking Mr. Mata and his team to present the I Choose Leadership presentation to the board.
So yes, when I started as a school board member, one of my visions was that to have or implement some kind of leadership program. So I've been brainstorming, all these years, and then all of a sudden, Ms. De La Cruz came up with something and presented it to me. So I was like, oh wow, it's a leadership curriculum for the high school, a curriculum that teaches students about value. It grows leaders and it creates a transformation within students to make better choices. I have a team here that's going to present. I have Idalia de la Cruz. They're part of my doctoral cohort. Maria Berrial out of Carrizo Springs and Marisa Tobias out of Carrizo Springs. That's how the floor.
Good evening.
Good evening.
One of the things that we were asked to do as part of our doctoral program is to look at policies and find ways that we can help districts, especially within the North Garden area, which we're from. So our focus was student leadership programs. Recently, there was training on governance, and if you had the chance to attend some of the sessions, you see that the trend is we want to have student leadership programs within the district. And so one of the programs that we found was the Eilee Program, which is a youth leadership program that we'll present to you this evening. It embeds not only the 7 positive character traits that you should have within the curriculum in K-12, but it also embeds the character ed traits and personal skills that you see on the sheet that I gave you that's already in policy. So those are embedded within the program itself. So tonight, that's what we're going to be presenting, and it's the Ilead Youth Leadership Values Program from the John Maxwell Foundation.
I'm going to provide some information about John Maxwell himself. He's the #1 New York Times bestselling author, coach, and speaker who sold more than 24 million books in 50 languages. He's often called the country's #1 leadership authority. He's the founder of the John Maxwell Company, the John Maxwell Team, and Equip, a nonprofit organization that has trained more than 5 million leaders in 100 countries. Each year he speaks to Fortune 500 companies, presidents of nations, and many of the world's top business leaders. 3 of his books have sold over 1 million copies each. And according to his website, his life's passion is to develop leaders at all levels. He believes in the person themselves and the power that they have to create a legacy within the sphere of influence that will leave behind an army of leaders who get the importance of strong leadership. Next slide, please. The Ilead Curriculum is made up of values-based transformation tables designed by Maxwell himself to allow the next generation of leaders to develop their values and leadership skills. The format of the program allows students to get experience leading as they take turns facilitating roundtable discussions. Each lesson contains a short teaching on a value or a leadership characteristic and asks the students to rate how well they practice the characteristic, and then asks them to commit to one action step for the week that will allow them to improve their score. So the goal is to set them and their communities up for meaningful and sustainable success.
I'm a big fan of John Maxwell, and so curriculum.
When I was 14, I was having a lot of self-esteem issues and having trouble getting along with my family members, and just like felt like the world was against me. So I ended up getting in with the wrong people, and they didn't really necessarily make me feel better, but they gave me options that would make me feel better. And I ended up getting in trouble at school. The first time I came to the PAL program, I was so aggravated. I did not want to be there. I was like angry at the world. I was like, why am I here? Everything they said came one ear and out the other. So when I first started to like open up to the idea of like trying and putting an effort into this program, the coaches made me feel like no matter what I said, if it was a bad choice I made, or if it was like my honest opinion on something, no one was gonna judge me about it. Everyone was gonna be accepting of how I feel about it. Every day I came in here, it was like I was learning something new that causes me to think the way I do, to act the way I do. And before, if I made a bad choice, I would always blame it on, oh, so-and-so did this to me, or I did it because this happened. But I started taking a lot more responsibility for all of my choices, things I chose not to do or to do. As we go on and we face different challenges, you always need that reminder of how you can handle a situation, or how could you make the best of what's happening to you in that moment. Ilead I Choose Me helps me and other kids remember, like, it's your choice to make good choices. Because of the roundtables, I have developed into such an amazing person, especially compared to who I was before, and it makes me so happy that I can look myself in the mirror and be happy with who I see and the choices that she's making.
Like I was saying earlier, I'm a big fan of John Maxwell, and I was watching one of his programs, and he started to talk about Ilead, and it's about 5 years into it, and it's free. So when he said free, I said, this is for us. It's free, it's for me. And so he started in 2017 and into high schools in Paraguay. That's where he did the field testing for effectiveness and receptiveness. And in 2018, I think that's the next slide. So in 2018, a universal version of Ilead was launched and is still field tested at a much broader global scale. So in 2019, in Guatemala, the Vice Minister of Education launched Ilead in Guatemala and is training 26,000 teachers with the material. Next slide. So again, it's a peer-to-peer roundtable discussion. 43,371 schools committed. 1,662,799 students are participating. A focus group of 15 international students reported on their ISD experience. 100% increased leadership ability. 100% of the students saw opportunity to apply what they learned, and 100% of the students reported that the topics discussed in issues are relevant to them. After having participated in the issues, 93% of the students reported that they are impacting their community positively. 100% of the students believe that they are better prepared for the future because of I Choose. And after I Choose, 100% of the students reported greater self-awareness, and 100% of the students reported that their self-confidence has increased post I Choose.
This plan is actually a 3-year plan. If you know, there's a brochure that we handed out, it's maroon in color. That goes over the first year, which the first year is called I Choose, where you connect values and leadership. There's a QR code that's there, so when you have time, you can use your phone and get more information. There's many links that can show you, as well as testimonials that can show you how it's impacted students. The second year, I Do is connecting actions and leadership, and the third year, I Lead connects influence and leadership. So the first year, we're helping students connect with values and leadership. We are taking it 1 year at a time. If you choose to go with this program, there are 16 lessons, and you'll see them in the brochure as well. This is something that can be easily embedded within the curriculum that you have now. Our suggestion is to pick someone who's willing to go through the training, willing to have fidelity to the program, so that it will have the greatest impact with the students. The objective over the course of the program is to identify and explore the values of leadership, take ownership of students' choices, practice those values and develop skills, and then evaluate themselves with their applied knowledge. Self-reflection, as we know, is extremely important, and lead themselves and take turns leading each other. We have a suggestion of starting at the high school level, but of course your district can begin this program at any level that it chooses. However, the reason that we suggested high school is because you could start with your freshmen in year 1, go through year 2 with them as sophomores, year 3 with them as juniors, and when they become seniors, they become the ones that can help you with those freshmen that are coming in. So it becomes a cycle that you can develop leadership skills in our students.
And I emailed when I was watching John Maxwell, he talked about a superintendent from, her name is Molly Spearman. And so she's from South Carolina, and I thought she was a superintendent for a school, but she's a state superintendent. So I emailed her, not knowing. And so she emailed me back with some documentation of what they're gonna do. They're barely gonna start in South Carolina. This is not done in America yet, so that they're gonna be the first ones doing Eilee. I'm sure there's other leadership programs that are out there, but from John Maxwell, we would be probably the first ones in Texas. So, and she sent me the letter and it's attached to your packet, the letter that she wrote to her group. And so she's gonna start a book club with all her middle school teachers. And so she's gonna buy the John Maxwell book called Change Your World. And so the books are very easy to read, and they're very logical. I really enjoyed watching John Maxwell. And so we have a little raffle, because we bought a couple of books on leadership. We gave one to the superintendent, and we would like to raffle 2 books for members.
Do you have any questions for us?
So right now in the United States, we don't have anybody implemented the program.
No, and she said South Carolina's gonna be getting it committed, and so we would be first in Texas to commit to the program.
And so how is it going to be implemented in high school? Through classes or?
Yes, the high school leadership would get together and decide what area they would implement it. Remember, it's 16 lessons throughout the year, so you're not actually pulling a teacher from a content area for this. They can be embedded within.
And it's only 1 day a week. It's not throughout the whole semester. It's 1 day a week.
For 1 day a week, every week?
Every week, yeah, per lesson. So it's a total of 32 lessons per year. And then that would be the I Choose, and then they move to the I Do, another 32 lessons, and then the I Lead would be another 32 lessons.
And what's the ideal students per grade level or?
We would want to target all of them, right?
All of them.
We want to make all of them leaders. That would be the goal.
But again, once your committee gets together and decide, they can choose how they want to implement it and what phases they want to put it in. All of the training and all of the curriculum materials are at no cost. The only thing that we have to report if we decide to commit as a district is the data. That's all that they do.
Collection.
And
Yes.
that QR code gives you all the lessons. If you click on the QR code, it gives you all the websites. You can download it to your iPad, to your iPhone, and the lessons are there and they tell you exactly how to follow. So you just need a facilitator. You don't need a certified teacher, nothing like that, because it's gonna be student geared.
I have a question, and it only starts at high school, 9th grade and up.
Well, it's 3 years. You could start it wherever you would want to start it, but it's ideal at the high school, meant for the high school.
Oh,
Have you all made a presentation to the high school staff?
Well, I spoke
Step
to,
one.
I only spoke to Matthew a little bit, and he told me to give him the information. So Matthew, go ahead and click on the QR code, and the information is there.
We run it by Ms. Rabas. But we had to bring it to the board first, before anything.
South Carolina implemented it in their junior high.
They gave they're gonna implement it, I think, in the high school, but they gave all the junior high teachers a book.
So we're also gonna present this, leadership program to the Carrizo ISD, see if they're willing to go for it. So one of the things that I learned at the governance camp was that, on Friday, they presented, students, it was a student voice. So one thing that I noticed that was very, noticeable that, all students that were there present, all students from all kinds of districts, big districts, small districts, and listening, one notable was that they were all participating in a leadership program, all of them. So that got me thinking, and you know what, we need one, we need to create one, we need to, if this doesn't work, this is just a pilot program. There's other leadership programs out there that we can adopt, but we need to start with something. We need to start with something and creating leaders. As I mentioned, it creates values, it creates, leaders, and that's something that we need. Ms. Young can attest to
What we
this.
learned was when students have a voice and they take ownership, they become much more involved and they're better in everything.
Exactly.
We even had a group of kids that got a bond passed.
Yeah, exactly, they got a bond pass. And that's something that I want to create, that's in the future, create committees of students that can present to boards and what they want and what we're missing and things like that. So that's in the future, that's something that, I'm already trying to implement and helping students. This is all student-based. All student-based, and that's what we need.
Okay, so
So, go ahead and raffle, if I get one of the books, I'll vote for it.
Ms. Briones,
Yes, sir.
so this is obviously, it's a free curriculum, is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So it's one time a week for 32 weeks. And they have enough for 3 years of this? So like,
I
what,
believe so,
90,
yes.
96 weeks of it?
It's a 3-year program, yes, ma'am. Yes,
It's
sir.
a 3-year program. And they recommend starting with freshmen, sophomore, juniors, or junior high? What is it?
That is their record.
Our recommendation, as we were talking about it for high school, is a way to implement it, but every district can implement it as they see fit. Their committees would get together and decide how they wish to implement it.
I wouldn't mind having that at the junior high, I'm just saying.
And John Maxwell said they're starting something with the elementary kids, like from 4th to 6th grade, something like that. And we were thinking of junior high, when I spoke to the junior high principal from Carrizo, he's like, I think I would want that in my school.
Yeah.
So I would see that as well.
They can have it in both schools,
Yes, you can have it in,
so
it's,
if junior high wants it and high school wants it.
yes, you can have it in both schools if you like. Again, the committee, your educational committee, your curriculum committee would have to decide that. That's not something, we just gave you an example of how it could be laid out, but that would be completely and totally up to you.
Still have to design it. We still have to design it, yeah.
Ms. Briones, what is your recommendation, ma'am?
So the recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve implementing the I Choose Leadership Values Program at Crystal City High as presented, And as we take a look at the design of it, if it's something that we can extend to Sterling, then we can do that.
Mr. Espinosa, if there's no more questions, sir, I'll motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Mr. Garcia,
I'll second.
second by Mora Guerrero. Discussion, questions? All in favor? Okay, the raffle.
Okay, 506
I think I have it.
and 504.
Ooh, thank you.
504?
504?
Oh, no, that's.
We're gonna pick another one.
Pick another one. I'll make it fair, pick another one. Oh, well, nobody's here, so
505? 505?
I have.
Can I donate this to our high school library? I'm sorry, ma'am, I couldn't hear you. Can I donate this to our high school library? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Any other?
Yes, we already voted, yeah.
Thank you very much.
So, B.
Okay, we're going to be discussion and consideration to approve the CrystalCity ISD instructional calendar for the 2023 school year. Ms. Briones.
The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the instructional calendar for the 2022-23 school year as discussed, and we are looking at draft B. Anna gave you a copy of it along with the survey that we took. So that is this is the district voting for calendar B, 2020-23.
Okay, the recommendation is to approve.
To approve it.
Do I have a motion to approve the what's being recommended by administration?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Mata, second. Second by Ms. Guerrero. Questions? Favor?
All right.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, C, discussion and consideration to approve the proposal for book the Midland Hardcourt for the section phonics and spelling 2022 full kids grades 1, 2, and in-person training. Ms. Briones?
The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve this proposal. It is for a phonics program for grades 1st to 2nd for a total price of $27,562.32.
Question, when you say approve this proposal,
It's a purchasing authority, so it exceeds the amount, so we do need to bring it before the board.
so what your recommendation is that
Is
we
to-
buy it?
Is to purchase it, yes, sir.
Okay, do we have a motion?
A motion.
Conflict of interest?
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Mata, second by Ms. Young, all in favor? Okay. The discussion consideration to approve addition of dyslexia teachers for junior high and for high school.
The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the addition of 2 dyslexia teachers, 1 designated for high school and 1 designated for Sterling H. Fly Junior High for the remainder of this school year, as the numbers indicate that we need to have a separate teacher from the special ed teacher.
How many do we have at the elementary?
1 and 1? 1 at Rivera, 1 at Zavala.
And they're not exiting the program by the time they get to high school and junior high?
I move.
Okay, motion by Ms. Guerrero, second.
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Young. I just have a question here.
Yes,
So the elementaries at Zavala, we have 1 teacher
Yes,
that takes care of all the kids, and then in Benito Juarez, the same thing.
yes,
So by approving this, we'll have somebody in
and every campus.
every campus that will, so the number of students will reduce. per period.
It's for the remainder of the school year.
School year, but if we approve now, this positions will be available.
Correct. So we
Next
can
year.
start filling the positions if the board grants us.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, need a motion?
I already made it.
Oh, you made it, second,
By Peggy.
Second. Eilee, second.
I need to vote.
okay, motion to approve, Passes. Informational items, superintendent's report.
Attendance, so last week, we are beginning to see an increase in our attendance, hopefully we'll be over the 90% threshold. We did have a conversation with principals and the SEO-based coordinator in terms of getting district truancy courts ready so that we can continue increasing our attendance. So we're good as far as this is concerned. We need to make sure that we get over the 90% threshold because we don't want to be penalized for lack of attendance like we were last year. So we are working on this one.
That's enrollment.
That's enrollment and EDA.
Okay, on facility.
Facilities use requests, so we are getting a request from the campuses. We do need to make sure that now that Jesse this morning reported that we have 0 staff cases, COVID cases, 0 student cases, so we can begin gradually opening facilities use to the different youth leagues. And so far we only have 1 request, and so that still is pending campus principal approval. So until that is granted, then we will start gradually opening the facilities to the community.
How will that be handled? Will they have to come to the board?
Yes, we still have to do, well, they don't have to come to the board, they do have to request for facility, well, they do. But right now, we don't have any request that is ready for board approval because we don't have campus approval yet.
So this includes like the basketball, Pee Wee basketball that they have every year? So what's going on with that? Because what I've heard is that they've been extended and now they're trying to get in and they have no access. So is there
district facilities? Yes, we were, so while we are under, if our transmissibility rate is above 20%, we were not opening the facilities because they have to go through deep cleansing every evening. And so now that our rate is less than, now we can begin to gradually implement. We can't begin full force. So I know that the first request that I have is for 3 days out of the week, and we're going to have to scale them back.
Basketball or?
This request that I have is for basketball, yes. And that's just informational.
Okay. So that's it on, okay, on number 10.
No, we need B. The campus.
Okay, yes, campus winter benchmark students and.
So for the campus winter benchmark student data, I will be asking every campus team to present, beginning with high school.
Can we give them a 5-minute time limit?
5 minutes?
5 minutes, that's all I need.
So this is Mr. Moreno. I don't know that you
Yes.
formally met him. He is the instructional coach at high school.
Hi.
So everyone, I believe this is in your board book, the presentation. I'm not sure on the page. I believe it was going small school to high school, but we're going the other way. So if everybody wants to kind of jump to my first page on the high school, it should look something like this.
What page number?
This is page 1. I don't know what number it is.
Of your report.
Board book. It's my page 1. It's after the blank pages over here.
Yeah.
157.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go ahead and explain for all of the campuses this very first table right here. It's forecasting our performance on accountability. So as you can see, it's broken down into approaches, meets, and masters, which of course are what we need to meet as accountability. So you can see my 5 tests, which is English 1, English 2, Algebra 1, Biology, and US History, and you can see my rate of approaches. So you can see my 51, 50, 34, 67, and 88. So what we were tasked to do is we were tasked to find our threshold jumps of 5 and 7 questions. You might want to ask, well, why are we going to use, what exactly is a threshold jump, and where am I getting 5 and where am I getting 7? So a threshold jump is we're looking at the kids who scored 5 questions below approaches or 7 questions below approaches. And we chose those numbers because with the amount of time that we have left, we have about 6 weeks for anything that's not in English. In English, I actually have only 3 weeks before we actually go and test the real EOC. We feel like those are questions that we can get through strategic and targeted interventions. So, you know, those are the amount of numbers that we feel we're comfortable getting, and we know that we can definitely, you know, we can get those. So if we look at our threshold jump for 5 at approaches, we can see if we get all our students who are within 5 questions of passing the test, we can move our approaches level to 61. If we can get all those students who are within 7 questions of passing the test, we can move our English 1 to a 62. But we also did this for our meets and our masters because when it comes to accountability, we always look at their master's level. The more masters we have, the higher the accountability rate, right? So we did meets, same process, looked at 5 below, 7 below, we moved forward. So if we move English 1, our meets, if we can get within 5, our meets percentage goes from a 32% to a 46%, which means we have a lot of kids that are in that approaches, we want to move them into the meets because, you know, meets is where we want the kids to be on grade level. If we move all of the ones that are within 7, we move up to a 51%. Same idea with masters. We have threshold jumps of 5, so those are within 5 of getting mastery. That's 12%, and then if we move a threshold jump of 7, that's 15%, and those are the students that, you know, are usually college and career ready. So you can kind of look at that. That kind of goes for all our tests. It's the same idea for English 2, Algebra 1, Biology, and US History. And if we get every single student who is within 5, we'll be a B-rated campus. If we get every single student who's within 7, we'll be an A-rated campus. And that's because our mastery levels, how it rotates, how it looks, your mastery, it's a ratio between your masters, your meets, and your approaches. So after we did all the calculations, we did them with Ms. Martinez, we came out, if we can get all those kids within 7, we can be an A campus.
Sorry, and what type of interventions are you gonna do for the 5s and 7s to try to move?
Actually, if you
maybe you're gonna discuss that, but
yeah. So if you actually look towards the back of a little bit page, a couple more pages, it's my 13. I'm not sure exactly what page is yours.
169.
169. So you can actually see the intervention that we're doing. Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. So our Tier 1 students are those students who are already meets and masters. So we want to, of course, keep those students at mastery, and we want to, keep them at meets as well. So our Tier 1 is just kind of what's going on every day. We still have curriculum that we haven't finished. We still have 6 weeks for the test. So you can kind of look at them. It's broken down by the test. So we have English 1, English 2, Algebra 1, Biology, and US History. And you can see that it's broken down by each test, by each TEAC, what we're going to focus on, and even some time for some of the classes, a little bit of STAR kind of review, spiraling back, looking at those TEACs to make sure we have a solid hold on those. Before I jump into Tier 2, kind of this is where it's going to be. I wanted to let Ms. Urovaso, she was going to speak a little bit on the growth before we move on to that.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of our packet, second page 2 of 25. So
158 in the board packet.
So academic growth, Mrs. Robin Jones is going to explain what this means for the district, but in a nutshell, it tells us how much our students have grown from last year to now. And this is a real testament to our teachers as teaching, because they might not meet the approaches level or the meets and masters level, but it doesn't mean that the students aren't growing. So something I wanted to spotlight on page 9 of 25, if we look at our, in Algebra 1, the non-economically disadvantaged students, we start off the year with 4 not meeting at all. They just did not meet grade level, but right now we've got about 3, that 75% of those students already getting to the approaches level. If we look at the special education students for Algebra 1, on page 10 of 25, last year, a year ago,
for the spring 2021 STAR exam. 10 of those students did not meet grade level. Right now, for our February benchmark, we have 6 of them that are they're close to approaches. So we see that they're making gains. And then going on to the tiers that Matthew was discussing. So as he was saying, we've already thought of these multi-tiered layers of instruction. How are we going to address these different students with where they're at? So as Matthew was explaining, we've got our tier 1 instruction. This is what everyone's receiving. As he was saying, we're not done with the curriculum, so we're still working through our pacing calendars. And if we look at tier 2, which is in yellow on page 15 of 25, we're addressing these interventions in different ways. We've got a part 2 to our Algebra 1 course, so we've got a 90-minute block instead of a 45-minute block of math. We also have an embedded 30 minutes of intervention daily. We call it WIND period, which is what I need. So we have some students that are working on, Algebra 1 or biology, English 1, etc. And they're all based on the data that we looked at with the benchmarks that we just discussed. Also, those students that are already at Meets and Masters, we've got them working with teachers, preparing them for college and career readiness, TSI, ACT, things like that. For tier 3 students, like on page 18, we've got more targeted supports for these students. So these students are in smaller groups, receiving more specialized targeted interventions. And these are also provided during the WIN period. Also, we just started after school tutorials. So we're, providing more targeted assistance that way. Go ahead.
If I can add anything, so when we tiered our students, we didn't just like randomly chose them. We looked at specific, we grouped them specifically. So all of the kids, for example, in English 1, maybe they're missing the revising part of the test. So we're working on revising, or we're missing editing. So everything was strategically planned, so that way we can, hopefully get the best outcome, because, we got to shoot for the stars, because that's what we're aiming for.
And you can see the concepts there that Matthew's referring to. So in the chart, you can take a look. This week, we're focusing on this reporting category, this specific concept, and these are the readiness and supporting standards that the teachers are focusing on that, align to the TEKS.
As far as, how many dual credit students do you have that haven't tested, or have you looked at that data?
Dual credit students?
Yeah, that are taking, for example, English 1301.
Okay.
So there would be what, juniors?
Yeah, those are juniors. So they typically, you have to have a certain score on your English 2. I believe it's a 4,000.
4,000.
They have to have reached a 4,000 on the English 2 exam to qualify for the English 1301. But so, for example, like the U.S. history students, they have a completely separate curriculum. So what we did is we actually strategically put those dual credit students with our history department, so that way they can get the concurrent history that's happening in the classrooms with the kids that are not in dual credit. So that way they can still be ready for the test. And so that way, because those students are historically passers, those are, usually that those are going to pass, but we don't want them just to pass, we want them to master. So they're going to be, so we put them in there so that way they can the teachers can hopefully get them to master.
So I mentioned, said earlier something about after-school program?
After-school tutorials?
Tutorials. So when did that start?
We just started this week.
This week?
This week.
What about weekend tutorials, Saturdays?
We're going to start this month. So
This month?
Yes, after spring break.
So under after-school tutoring, what, are you gonna provide some type of snacks or
We are, yes.
things like that? Because,
Yes.
high school kids gonna be hungry after school.
Yes.
So,
Yes, we
okay. One last question. Are you guys being provided with the tools needed in order to succeed?
Yes. I would say yes.
The only thing I feel like we would need is just more incentives to get the kids to come in. That's the big one, the big incentives to get the kids to come in, because it's a lot to bring in, kids after school. They had a long day, so it's really, the big things are just those incentives. And I know we've talked with Ms. Briones and we're working on it, but
So what type of incentives do you have in mind?
Well, it's difficult because a lot of the grants do not allow us to purchase incentives with grant money. so they're considered non-allowable resources. So we have to, the one thing that we can offer though through the ESSER funds are academic field trips. So we're going to reward our students with an academic field trip. So we're going to develop a criteria. You attend 80% of the tutorial sessions that you've been enrolled in, then we have this incentive for you. But as far as food or prizes, things like that, the grants don't allow us to spend grant money on those things.
Grants to.
What if you get them donated?
Well, I mean, can we get them out of local?
The incentives can be moved out, can be taken out of local, and the food obviously can be prepared by food service. Yes, that's where we're gonna get our food from the food.
Because I remember, when I was a principal, we would have a line item under local for snacks, pizza,
Yes, food.
bicycle, this,
Out
that,
of local.
out of our local monies.
But our big incentive is gonna be these field trips.
Maybe, talk about your incentive and then meet with Medverones to see, how much he can help you.
Well,
Because it's the same, elementary and high school, there's gotta be a little incentive for the kids.
yes.
This, a raffle for a bike at the end, or this or that, and they'll come for that.
Speaking of student voice that you mentioned earlier, the importance of student voice, that's what we've involved our students. That's really important to us at the high school level, their voice being heard is important. So we just had a meeting with the student council last week, and we asked them, what kinds of incentives do you think we should provide to students to motivate them? And they gave us a list of ideas. And also, what can we do to improve? They gave us a list of ideas.
And National Honor Society, they could jump in.
Can you share some, Ms. Rock?
Yes, some of the things that they've asked, like for improvement.
For
Incentives. They've asked for things like just, time together, really. Like, can we have a dance? Can we come together at the gym and have some free time to, play basketball? Teachers versus students.
Oh, those are easy.
Yeah, those are easy.
Golden's a big one. Golden.
Food is a big one. Yeah. They would love to, be able to have food delivered again. That's a big incentive. Have their snack bar opened again. They've asked for things like that.
Are we looking at that yet, Ms. Briones?
The deliveries, not yet. The snack bar, they can open. Yeah, that's part of your food service.
What about emotional support for those students who are struggling? Have we ever looked at that?
Yes, actually, we're working together with the counseling department right now to improve our comprehensive school counseling program and looking at what type of guidance curriculum we can purchase, and then also, looking at data to see, looking at the discipline data. Who needs support because of certain at-risk, behaviors? So yes, we are. As far as right now, where we're at is we provide a lot of crisis counseling, individual student counseling, and more college and career readiness counseling. Not so much guidance curriculum, and that's a part of our campus improvement plan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Junior high? Mr. Alvarado, Ms. Jones? So they're gonna start, their report starts on page 99 of your board packet.
Yes, I apologize for my 50-page report. Because, we have 9.
We are a lucky campus that has 9
state assessments.
State assessments that we have to prepare for from 6th grade all the way to 8th grade or Algebra 1. So again, and I'm going to go over it briefly, and then I'll let Ms. Jones, again, our thresholds, like Mr. Moreno said. One of the things that, that we need to be aware of is that the state kind of grades you in different ways, which would be domain 1, which would be student achievement. Did you get your students to pass overall? Bottom line, did you get your students to pass? Domain 2 is your student growth. And then domain 3 is closing the gap where it compares you to other campuses around, that are compatible to yours. Bottom line is at the junior high, and this one was not added, but this was given to us by Ms. Martinez, Ms. Irma Martinez here at the central office, and I'll show you around. If we could get our thresholds, like Mr. Moreno said, we've identified all our students that are within 5 questions. We've identified all our students that are within 7 questions, and we've come up again with a 52-page plan. And again, this is not so much a presentation for you all, it's our plan. This is what we're gonna do as a campus too. We're just presenting you all our plan. And bottom line, and again, I'm just gonna pass this around, and this was given to us by what the district is projecting for us. And we would end up at a C at the end. And if we could get to at least the C, when we put all our students together and threshold them and get them to pass, we would pretty much achieve a major goal in closing the COVID loss. If we could get back to where we were pre-COVID, that would be a big step for us, and that would show tremendous leaps and bounds for our students. So that's kind of what we're doing. Ms. Jones is going to present the the student growth part of our district. What page is it on there?
Let's see. I just want to show really quick. So remember we went over this report a little bit last time, that these are the kids that we're comparing the spring benchmark to how they did with the last actual star that they took. Because the last actual star they took is the one they're going to use to see if they show any growth when they take the next star. So if you look here, you'll see that these are the number of kids that were at master's level, and then it'll show you if they gave you a point or if you lost a point. Down here, this part right here will show you, it's the summary. So these are the students that gave us a point. 54 students gave us a point, and 44 students did not give us any point, and then it'll give you a complete summary of how they did. I want you to turn specifically to page 115. It's 115 in your packet. It's 7th grade math. It's the English learners, 7th grade math. It's page 115.
114, 7th grade math, English learners.
No, but it's the
ELs.
115, the ELs. So it's
114.
No, it's further down. The other way. Right there.
Okay.
So if you look at these students, it's a small number. We have 2 students that are EL English learners in this grade, in 7th grade. So if you look at them, both of these students showed growth. And if you look at it carefully, one of them did not pass at all, and he went all the way to approaches, almost to the meets side. So you had one go from approaches to meets, and then we had one here that did pass. He was at approaches, but he went all the way to meets. And then you had one that did not pass, and they went all the way to approaches.
But they still give us the point.
Yes, they give you a full point. So you, at the bottom down here, you'll see that 100% of our kids gave us points. And the reason that I bring attention to the EL students is because that's one of the target groups. So we need to pay close attention to those students, even if we don't have a lot of them, to make sure that they're getting what they need to be successful on the STAR. Another page that I want you to look at is the 7th grade reading SPED students. It's on page 119, I think.
118.
Those are different. 7th grade reading, right there.
Right.
So on here, we had 19 students that did not pass, but we had eight of those students showed growth, and one of them even went to approaches almost in the meets section. And then we had one student that was in approaches, and he showed enough growth to go to meets. And again, you'll see the numbers down here that 10 of those students gave us a point. Even though we still had some that did not, we are showing that the SPED students are growing, and that's another target group. So we're making sure that those students, even if they're not passing, they're showing some gains.
So it's like I said at the beginning, you know, you can get students to pass, but there's also ways to get to where you need to be by just showing growth. You know, not all students might pass, but at least everybody will grow enough to give us what we need. And so there's just different ways of looking at that.
Then I have the 8th grade math students, all students. Page 1, this one, right there. So in this section, we had 81 students that did not pass. From those 81 students, 39 showed growth. From those 81 students, 13 went to approaches. From not passing, 13 went to approaches. 10 of those students went all the way to meets, and then we even had 2 students that were in the masters. So this is really good because there's with 89 of these students, and then you had some jump all the way to the master's level. Down here, we had 16 students that were at the approaches level, and then you had 12 that went to not only approaches, but almost to the meets area. So they're closer to being able to get in the meets area already just by those. And then you look at the bottom, there's 77 of those students gave us a point, and only 20 students did not give us a point. And that was 79% of our students showed growth in 8th grade math. Do you have any questions on that report? That's what we're using. That's the data that we're using to get our interventions ready. And we have, in your package, you'll see that we have our tier 1, our tier 2, and our tier 3 interventions. Tier 1 is in the classroom. They're still following the students are still following the pacing calendar. And all of our contents are on pace to finish before testing with either a week or 2 to review and then to have a blitz. The tier 2 intervention is embedded into the schedule. We have a 30-minute second period class, and after meeting with Ms. Briones and having a discussion, we're going to use that class to hit the process skills for every content. So every content has an SE with a process skill. So I met with the teachers, and we are going to make sure that they're working on the process skills, which will require the higher order thinking with the low SEs that they're focusing on. We also have an enrichment class. So every content has a partner enrichment teacher. They work together, and in that class, they're hitting some of the high tested, low scoring teams. Then of course we have our after school tutorials, and just like Mr. Moreno said about choosing our kids based on whether they're missing a certain SE or they need to work together. The teachers have divided their students into groups. A teacher's stronger in a certain area, and that's the TEAC that they'll address. And this is going to be after school. We have designated Mondays and Tuesdays for reading and science, and Wednesdays and Thursdays for math and social studies. We also have our Saturday tutorials. We haven't started them yet, but we're gonna start them when it's closer to start, because it's going to be more like a super Saturday, where we're focusing on the kids who are at the meets and the masters. So we want to set up like stations, like in the gym, in the cafeteria, in the classrooms, where the students can move from station to station.
We want to make it fun.
Yeah, we want to make it fun and hands-on, more reviewing getting them ready, making them feel like more positive, just getting their attitude so where they can feel more comfortable with them. And we will meet with the teachers, and we will strategically plan what are these stations gonna look like. There's reports that you can run to see which teachers are stronger in certain areas. So have them be the ones that are teaching the category that they're strong in. So that's what our Saturdays are going to look like.
You know, one of the things that Mr. Mata brought up, and I'm glad that he brought it up, was what are we doing for the students that are struggling, and how are we supporting them? one of the things is, and this, Briones also kind of has been hitting, that subject, it cannot be all drill and kill, we gotta make it fun at some point, and that's where the incentives come in, and that's where all the other things. If you're hearing out there, I've already had parents donate, I gotta mention her, Miss Yvonne Sapna, she went and donated, I don't know how much money, but it was a lot of snacks, waters. I've had other parents show up with a pizza, and drinks for different groups that we've been hosting. We started since last week, so the word got around, and I've had parents already. So if anybody's out there and wants to donate, junior high will gladly take in donations from anybody that. And again, these are kids that we're holding behind, and it's anywhere from 30 to 50 students after school every day, and we're feeding them. And again, it's coming out of our local activity. So again, it does take money to get these things going. So any other help, that we can receive, any donations would greatly be appreciated.
We also are using our popcorn machine from the concession stand.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've been giving them popcorn and again, some of the students, the food services, we haven't gone that route. We went the other route. We're giving them actual things that I know that would like bags of chips and a little soda, candy, or something. Just
I noticed in Uvalde, I know Taco Bell does it, and I know Wendy's does it. They ask you if you want your change, and if you don't want it, they give it to the educational fund. We should do something like that here for the campuses, or have the superintendent approach the community and see what they think about it, business owners.
All for it.
That would add a lot.
So, quick question, are you, I'm gonna ask the same question I asked the high school. Are you being provided with the tools necessary in order to be successful in helping your students, other than what you mentioned right now?
So
what is it that you need from us that, that can help you with your students?
I think, and I do have to admit that I think the direction that Ms. Briones has given us this year with strategic planning, and just being very familiar with curriculum has, brought us to that next level of actually being able to target specific students, not just doing random, acts of whatever it is that we're doing. And of course, this year, we can't complain about money because we got money to to do whatever we need. So it's just, and Mr. Moreno mentioned it, not only are the students wanting, the teachers are wanting time. So that's our biggest thing, just finding time to give to the students, to give to the teachers. And believe it or not, it's I don't know how to explain it, but it doesn't take much to give incentives to people. My teachers this week, all they wanted was a gene pass, and that's all they asked for, so it's simple little things that we can do as administrators and as campuses that, it's there. It's not that our students don't want to learn, or it's not that our teachers don't, it's just little incentives here and there. Everybody's on board, and everybody's helping out, even the community, like I said. So, looking for good things.
How many of y'all doing peer-to-peer tutoring in high school? Are you guys doing any peer-to-peer tutoring by any chance? How about you guys?
No. We used to have a program, it's been a while now, but for a while we had high school students coming down to the junior high to do some tutoring, but
maybe we could look into that, see if it works, if it helps or whatever, so just throwing that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Mrs. Correa?
It is going to present up there, however, and I know you got mine, but I also have a PowerPoint presentation. I'll be.
Thank you.
It's the same information, it's It's just in PowerPoint format.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll go ahead and get started with that very first slide, which is the forecasting. As other principals have mentioned, we're looking at two, the state is not really telling us yet what is gonna constitute an A, B, or C, just that we can not go below a C, but what is actually going to be a C. So we don't know yet. So as Mr. Alvarado has said, and the other principals said, we're just trying to get everybody to score as high as we possibly can. Given the option, we would rather have the students score on achievement versus growth, but we have two routes that we can take, and the better of the two is what the state is gonna give us. So this is the one that you've seen for the first two campuses, and so for my campus, we have fourth and fifth grade have math and reading, and then fifth grade has the science test as well. So let me explain my numbers here. At the February benchmark assessment, here's what we got for approaches, needs, and masters. So those are the actual results that our students achieved. From there, what would our scores look like, because this is in February, early February, if we were to get that threshold jump at 5 and 7. So, and I'm gonna focus on fourth grade math here. So in fourth grade math, we got 14%, which is 17 out of 120 students reaching approaches. So remember, we're still looking at our pacing calendar, we're still, all of our teams will be completely taught a week or 2 weeks before the actual START assessment. So we're still missing some teams here. However, if we were to get 5 more students to pass, we would add 36 more students to that 17, which would give us 44%. So just in 5 more questions, we would have a jump from 14 to 44% at approaches. Add 2 more to 7 would add 60 more students, so that would get us at 58. Does that make sense? Does everybody follow that? So, and you can look at these all the way down. For example, fifth grade reading, we'd start with 30 at 29%, then we'd get to 44%, and we'd get all the way up to 52%. At meets, going again with fourth grade math, 6 students passing. If we were to get 5 more questions correct, we would add 7 students, that would get us at 11%. 2 more questions to 7 would give us 16 more students, and that would leave us at 24% for meets. Masters, which is the highest standard to pass, we were at 3 students in February. If we were to get 5 more students, we'd have 9, so 5 more questions, we'd have 9 students. 7 more questions, we'd have 11 more students. And so looking at this data, overall, Ms. Martinez met with us and she said, okay, so looking at this data here, this is what Equity looks like, but in a line graph. And so our information is down here, and so we look at it, and of course, okay, well, we want to do better, we want to achieve higher, but Ms. Martinez shared with us that these numbers down here, where we are in February, is actually higher than we were at the end of last year for these, when they were 3rd and 4th graders, these 4th and 5th graders. So the data does look better, and as when we shared this with the team, we want this to go high. We want it to be on an upward trend because that means that the students are growing. We are getting more students passing. It is an upward trend, and so come May, we hope that it's actually higher than the projection is.
Mr. Mayor, you got the 4th grade writing, right?
No, the 4th grade writing is not on there this year. The state it is going to be, field test questions. It's kind of embedded in there, but it's not, it's just a reading test as far as our scores go. So that is student achievement, and then we have academic growth. Academic growth, we don't get it for science because it's from one grade level to the next. So for us, academic growth is 4th and 5th grade reading and 4th and 5th grade math. So for 4th grade math, and as the other campuses have also explained, these are the students that we had. Out of this number of students, we had 24 more, but we still have these 39 that we're trying to get to, at least try to get to approaches. So if they don't pass, we need to be able to show at least that we're showing growth. And if we're showing growth, and all of these students show some growth, some movement upward, then if we don't get the achievement, even though that's the goal, that's what we're all working towards, we should still be able to get growth. We can still get the kids to show growth, and that will help us out in that domain. And so this is for the math. And I'm gonna go through all of them. For fourth grade reading, we had 24 students. We're still working on these 31. This particular part, as they've mentioned before, this is a live document. When you click on it, on the spreadsheet, it will give you the name of the student, so that's how we also look at tutoring. Fifth grade math, and so again, we can see how all the students have been doing. We have our ISIPs tiered. This is our math, fourth and fifth grade. Our reading, fourth and fifth grade.
Ms. Varma, can you go down to that one? To the other one?
This was awesome.
On the math also, go down one more. For example, I mean, I know we've been talking about, approaches and all that. But by looking at your fourth grade students, I mean, you have, how many in the green level, that's tier 1?
11%,
And then in the yellow,
20%,
and then in the other one,
70%.
so doesn't that look like there's a problem in math there? Or?
And we looked at it, and I believe district-wide, we kind of noticed everybody seemed to have a bit of issue here. And so, kind of like Star Renaissance, if you're familiar with Star Renaissance, ISIP, as the months progress, it is a more challenging test for the students because they're supposed to be showing growth. So we're looking at how did the students do? Was it, were they rushing through it? I know we were discussing different types of factors, but if you go down to, this is the tiering here, and this is one indicator, which is March. However, if you go to, we have them tiered here. So that's 4 looks, so for example, fourth grade math, that's the one that we're looking at. So tier 1, which would have been the green, it is at the 22. And tier 3, which is the red, we're at 35. But when we tier the students looking at the benchmarks and looking at their citations, the tier 2 is where we have the 43%. So we do look at the test and we do look at the ISIP, those columns, but we take both and tier the kids there.
Go down again to the reading. Or go out to the reading. For example, I mean, because again, we're talking about approaches and all this. Okay. In fourth grade, I mean, in tier 3, we have how many students?
34.
34. So I know, I mean, you're working on approaches and mids. What about the reading? I mean, or you do anything to get the reading up also, not only
For testing.
to get to approaches or you also hitting, because to me probably most kids are having problems reading, so.
In the math also.
And so.
And that's the thing with the math, that it's, the math problems are, you know, when I think of math, when I was in school, it's multiplication and you really didn't see any reading on there. And in the math problems today, they are multi-step questions. The students have to be able, and those are the things that we discussed when we plan with the teachers. Their questions are, on the STAR test, it's like a paragraph.
Yeah.
And students have to be able to critically understand first of all what the paragraph is saying. And then when we say multi-steps, within that problem, within that paragraph, it'll have, you know, what we could call distractors, a lot of information, but what is the question that's actually being asked?
Yeah,
What's the math problem that needs to be solved?
And I know that, but my concern is that we're trying to again, I mean, get them to master or get points for the STAR test. But what are we doing to get those 34 students also to grow in the reading level? Otherwise, I mean, we're trying to get them to master the test or approaches or whatever, and that's all we want, then those kids are just gonna, or are they gonna grow in reading?
One of the things that's on the very last slide, because the reading is one of the things that the teachers mentioned at the very beginning. With the COVID gap, go to the very last, the one before, thank you. One of the very first things that the teacher said in our meetings is the reading. Their reading is a struggle, or they can't comprehend what they've read. So one of the things that we've started, in addition to the tutoring, is trying to get the students to do a lot more independent reading.
Yes.
And so what we did is this is the last slide on the increasing reading levels, which I think is what you're asking.
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
We've started this initiative, and so what it is every 3 weeks, there's a goal that the students that we want them to reach for. And it's actually been very, very successful. I realized walking down the hallway the very first day that this got going, because kids are walking around with.
And that's what I wanted to hear. I mean, you are doing something
Yes,
to.
kids are walking around with library books, and just as any little thing, we have a popcorn maker there, a 15-minute recess, which, we could say, well, we're taking away from instruction, but we're actually doing so much reading. The students are willing to work for that. So when a class reaches 130 points overall, that's what they'll get. When a class reaches 160, 90, and so there's different goals for a class to meet.
And that's what I wanted to hear. I mean, to make sure, we're not only doing preparation for the test, but also, working to improve their.
And the accelerated reader is for the students who, that's all of the students are on the accelerated program, and they're by classes. And then for our special pops, we've also ordered Read Naturally. And so our special education teacher, that is for students who really need intervention with reading.
With reading.
And so he's using this program, and we're also ordering incentives from there for him, because those students set goals, individual goals, and then to reach them. So met with him, and so he wants to order as simple as stickers. He's like, the students will work for stickers. So we're going to Amazon, and we're going to order just a bunch of stickers. And so as the students are reaching their goals, he's going to have a chart. But again, those are our special pop students who need much more help, and accelerated reader is everybody.
But they're reading. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Zavala Elementary?
I will. On page 91.
Has to go up, right?
Y'all can change it as necessary, and I took it overboard and I changed it to all easy times.
Right place? No.
Page 91.
These are numbered different, that's why.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not right.
It's okay.
It's right
So
there.
that one, go back, up,
Oh, yeah, I saw it.
right there.
Happening at LDZ times, first edition. And so forecasting the performance on accountability. We kind of rearranged it, or Mr. Sedna rearranged it for me, because I was like, hey,
Hold on, I'm gonna, bear with me real quick. Let's just make sure I can see.
So I kind of wanted to understand it a little bit better. And so I rearranged it, or Mr. Sedna rearranged it to where our spring benchmark results are right here, then our threshold jump by 5 is right here, and then our threshold jump by 7 is right here. So we put it all together. And so let me just go back and just kind of go over our approaches, our spring benchmark results. So we had 40% approaches, which is the equivalent to 45 students. This is for third grade reading. We had 11 students at meets, 12 students at meets and 5 students at masters. For third grade math, we had 28 at approaches, 5 at meets, and 2 at masters. And then our campus overall was 73 students at approaches, 18 at meets, and 7 at masters. And when it was calculated, we got a raw score of 14, which was equivalent to 42, which would transfer to an F. Now, right now, these spring benchmark results are pretty comparable to how the third grade students were performing last year at the end of STAR, when they assessed at the end of STAR. Can you go back a little bit?
Oh, yes.
So when you look at the threshold jump by 5, we also calculated like, okay, so if we capture the students that get 5 more questions correct, then we jump to 65 students at approaches, 32 at meets, and 16 at masters, giving us a skill score of 56, still an F. Now, if we capture the ones at 7, we would have 82 students at approaches, 43 at masters, 43 at meets and 25 at masters, and it's right there, 69 at a D. However, can you go on to the next one?
Sure.
Mrs. Martinez provided us with her accountability projections, and this is pretty much the other chart that you were looking at. It's just easier on the eyes, and this is our actual spring benchmark data. This is where we're at right now. If we're within 5, we would be with 11% at masters. Yes, 11% at masters, 25 at meets, and 61 at approaches. And then it would be 17 at masters, 32 at meets, and 74 at approaches, which would give us a raw score of 70, which is equivalent to a C. So if you go on to the next one. Well, I wanted to go back to what Mr. Alvarado had mentioned a little earlier, and a lot of these other campuses, they went ahead and they gave you a growth report too. We don't have a growth report. We don't have a domain 2 that says, okay, these students are going to grow. We have to pass on student achievement. We have to go by domain 1, and our students have to perform. We don't have any growth points. We're not going to have that at our campus. So looking at our math results, we went ahead down here, we looked at first grade, and we went ahead and compared the percentages to actual students and where they're falling as far as tiers. We did notice, now this is the math, we did notice and we questioned, because we looked at third grade, and we questioned, okay, we have a little bit less here, and there seems to be more here. And so we were talking about it, what happened here, what's going on. And so some of the teachers were mentioning how they noticed that some of the students had maybe 2 less points, or they had, 2 less points. And because of those 2 points, it dropped them all the way down from a tier 1 to a tier 3. So Ms. Bernal mentioned, the assessment as the year goes on and progresses gets a lot more demanding. So that's our math results. And our reading results, again, we went ahead and converted the percentages to students and where they're at. So tiering our students. Our third grade students have been tiered, and we use our fall and winter benchmark along with station data to determine the level of intervention. So of course, we all know tier 1 instruction is for all students receive that type of instruction. Tier 2, we provide some supplemental interventions for some identified students, and tier 3, intensive interventions for individual students. So we've identified, for math in tier 1, we've identified 45 students that are in tier 1. For tier 2, we've identified 40 students, and for tier 3, we've identified 30 students. For reading in tier 1, we've identified 45 students that are in tier 1, we've identified 44 students that are in tier 2, and 24 students that are in tier 3.
That's in reading?
Monday? Yes, this other column was in reading.
Can you bring it down, Mr.
Yes.
Do you think that by the end of the year, how many of the tier 2 do you think you'll move to tier 1 by the end of the school year?
By the end of the school year, we're hoping that we get all of them to tier 1. I mean, that's really the goal. We're hoping we can move everybody up.
So You are working on that,
We are working on that and we'll.
in the
we'll
2
do
to
that.
1 and some of the 3 to 2.
Monday?
You're working on moving the 2 to tier 1 and some of the 3 to
Yes, to
to 1, or,
and getting everybody what they need as far as their individual needs. So LDZ teachers, we met with all of them and they asked, okay, well, how can we help teachers begin disaggregating the data to determine which TEKS students are needing supported? Teachers signed up for Saturday tutorials and more students are invited to Monday and Tuesday tutorials. So I mentioned more students are invited to Monday and Tuesday tutorials because when we discussed the winter benchmark, we talked about the students that were within those 5, and we focused our tutoring on the students that were within 5, the threshold 5. And so we noticed that we moved a lot of those students to approaches, and that was mainly it. We moved a lot of those students to approaches, and yes, we moved some to masters and whatnot, but we did notice that we did lose maybe 1 or 2 from masters to meets. So we decided we're gonna take a different approach. And so all our teachers, it's kind of an all hands on deck, and the teachers, our hero teachers stepped up and, hey, what can we do right now? And said, well, right now the world doesn't need heroes, we need teachers. So that's what we're gonna do. And the teachers went ahead and they decided, the math teachers, we gave the third grade teachers some time, and they went ahead and they identified the readiness standards that they needed for math. They looked at the low performing SEs, and they identified those standards and how they'll be spiraling them back. And these are the weeks that they'll be focusing on each concept. Go on to the next one. The reading team did the same thing, and how they're going to reteach. One of them, they did notice, okay, this one is tested, it's heavily weighted, we're gonna go ahead and front load it, because if we look at our pacing calendar, that might come in a little bit later, so they went ahead and they pushed it up and they front loaded it specifically.
Go back one up real quick on the math.
So,
What I guess this is what grade?
third grade.
So they're trying to do fractions, area and all that stuff, but yet these are students that really didn't have a foundation in second and first because of COVID?
Yes. So they're having to spiral everything back, they're having to do tutorials, they're having to do Saturday tutoring. That's why we're having to bring all that back. Yes, there is a big foundational gap. So we're trying to address that through all the.
So it goes the same with y'all too, right? I mean, it goes back,
Like in.
there's a basic foundation.
In 6th grade, you know, the math changes.
And yet
a
the
little
state
bit.
says we're gonna test.
Correct.
And you can see it in some of our groupings, you know, like our 7th grade group, you know, you can see that, but they lost those 2 years, and the math changes from elementary to secondary. So, I mean, it's a big gap. That's what I'm saying, if we can get back to pre-COVID numbers, I mean, we've achieved so much.
We want to surpass pre-COVID numbers.
Right.
As far as LDZ.
Right.
And we no longer have that growth, and it has to be a.
Read page 97 and 98. It's good what they're doing.
And so our SEs that they selected are heavily weighted, tested. So those are the SEs and the teachers, which ones are gonna give us the biggest.
So for our tier 1 instruction, we looked at our pacing calendar for math, and we're on track for math on our pacing calendar. And we do have a 10-day math start blitz embedded, which was what Mr. Alvarado mentioned earlier. It's just, you know, using those SEs and those TEKS and just providing a fun way to spiral it back in and giving those students a little bit of a break of the, so to speak, drilling hill. And so when we looked at the reading, we're on track for reading on our pacing calendar. And they even have a 5-day reading start blitz that's embedded in the pacing calendar. And it's in the pacing calendar is also included 5 days where the students are reviewing concepts across the genres. So for tier 2 instruction, we've revamped our master schedule. We've always had an accelerated learning block. So we revamped the schedule to include a pull-out accelerated learning block. So the general ed teachers remain with the tier 1 and 2 students. Again, we wanted to do something a little bit different because we want to make sure that these
tier 1 and tier 2 students are getting what they need and pushing them towards that meets and masters and not losing anybody from our masters and our meets. And so the intervention team pulls out tier 3 students to focus on the foundational skills and closing that learning gap. So our tier 3 instruction, pretty much the same thing to tier 2. Let me move. Can you move Eric? I'm very down here. So during our accelerated block, the intervention team will provide instruction that will target closing foundational gaps again, but in smaller groups. And we'll have our instructional aides, and we've trained them for LLI. And so that's the level literacy intervention. And so they'll have 2 assigned classrooms where they'll pull tier 3 students during the accelerated learning block and provide targeted instruction. Now it says 2 classrooms, but when they're pulling out students, it's no more than 10. And that's only for one block. The other blocks, they have no more than 8, I believe. And so they'll be doing like a little rotation where they'll be focusing on, they're focusing on fluency passages and 4 fluency phrases, whatever's at their level. And also for math, to close that gap, they'll focus on number charts and how to properly utilize that number chart, and to fill out a number chart to help them and to assist them during testing. So our after-school tutorials, we've extended an invite to more than 56 students to stay for an extra 30 minutes for targeted instruction. Teachers from 2nd and 1st grade, and the 2nd grade team and 1st grade team and special pops are also assisting with tutoring to ensure that groups remain small. We don't want to have this tutoring and say, okay, we're going to extend the day 30 more minutes, and then we have this big old group. No, we're spreading the love all across. And so our 1st grade team stepped it up, our 2nd grade team and our special pops, they've all stepped it up. And so our groups are they're pretty comparable. They're maybe 2, 3 with some of the teachers, 2, 3 students. Saturday tutorials, we've extended an invite to 47 students to Saturday tutorials. It's an all hands on deck approach. We've extended an invitation to DTR and the district virtual teachers. We have 2 DTR teachers who have committed to a Saturday or 2, which is Angie Vera and Miss Lorena Coronel. And we also have 1 district virtual teacher, Mr. Andrew Peña, who committed to a Saturday, and of course all LDZs have committed to at least 1 Saturday. And the students are intentionally grouped using multiple data points.
Out of the 56 students that you invited for after school, how many showed up?
I haven't taken attendance, but we have, it's like having 2 dismissals. We're there dismissing students till almost 4:30. Because almost all of our 3rd graders, we have a lot of 3rd graders staying.
And on Saturday, out of the 47?
Monday?
Saturday.
And on Saturday tutoring, out of the 47?
That first Saturday, we had about 37.
That was a day that was very, 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 very
That was
cold.
very cold, yes, and we had 37 students show up. This last time around, the number was a little bit lower, so we did have that little Popeye tournament going on, so I wondered if we lost some of those students there. And we did take a different approach to Mr. Sedna took out a group and was taking them outside. They were working on perimeter, and I'm sure you saw the Facebook pictures.
So, are we providing any incentives to these teachers who are volunteering their time or anything like that? Because, I mean,
So the teachers know that there's a gap. The teachers know that there's a gap, and I understand what you're saying. But we started these conversations since the beginning of the school year, and saying, okay, at some point, we're gonna have to tutor, and it's all hands on deck. And we had a lot of the 2nd grade teachers already saying, like, when are we gonna start this tutoring? When are we gonna start it? Like, we need to start it already. Like, they were eager to start it. As far as Saturdays, they do get paid for their Saturday tutoring. We did already start it. We've been tutoring after school since October, November. We've been tutoring November? Since November.
so has anybody considered maybe grabbing a hold of who's your best math instructors in the whole district? If you have 3 or 4, who are your best reading instructors in the district, 3 or 4 or 5 that can help out during Saturday tutoring. Let's say we have a high school teacher that excels in math. Are they able to teach at the lower level and help out, with these developmental gaps?
But many times, I mean, there's a difference between the high school and the elementary. I mean, that's why it's better let your own teachers do it, because, I mean, they know, what they're lacking and.
Well, yes, and then we've also, it's been beneficial to invite the DTR teachers because they have those foundational.
That's what works, yeah.
It's closer versus high school.
And so when they come and they ask me, how do you want me to teach it? And I tell them, I want you to teach it like you would teach your students. And so they're like, oh, okay. But then we strategically group the students to where they need to be. We don't turn anybody around, turn anybody away. We've had some students say, I want to come to Saturdays. And even though it's not our targeted audience, we're like, okay, come on in, we'll bring you in and we'll place you in the group.
So for the after-school tutoring, are we offering any snacks and, for the students that maybe,
We're taking donations too. I know that some of the teachers do provide their own snacks. We are providing a little breakfast item for Saturdays, but what we are noticing is that per little, I guess cereal, whatever, we went through the cafeteria, and so it's $2 per student, and so it's cheaper if we go and we purchase like muffins and things that, kind of like Mr. Alvarado mentioned, things that they're gonna want, something different. They're used to eating that breakfast every single day of the week.
But if somebody wants to donate.
Pancakes and.
No, but.
Tacos.
But
cookie.
no, but if somebody wants to donate, then don't forget to remind them.
Okay, I'll send
Somebody wants to donate.
And the reason I'm asking is because what we need to do is, in order to help these students, a lot of them know, we're providing all this rigor, right? We're trying to provide all this rigor, but where's the emotional support? One of the things that I've heard, and I don't know if you've heard of this, is called Mass Bloom. Mass Bloom, what it is you're combining your Maslow's hierarchy of needs with your Bloom's taxonomy. Well, kids are hungry. After school, they're hungry. How are they gonna learn if their stomach is growling, things like that? So we need to figure out a way where we can provide those physiological needs. They can achieve.
Cafeteria providing snacks, that used to happen.
Can we?
It still does, they just request it.
So if they request it, they can get them.
Yes.
Even for after-school snacks?
Yes, and it counts as.
And it counts as reimbursement? It's a reimbursable meal.
All right, there we go.
So, you mentioned something, you mentioned, the emotional needs of the students. Some of our students that do show up, they need that emotional support, and that's why they're there. So they're asking, can I come?
Right.
Because they need to be there. So that's how they're being provided that emotional support along with that academics, and it's a smaller group, so they get a lot of that undivided attention. As far as throughout the day, we do have our counselor that she does see them during their specials. We do have a specials rotation where she's providing that counseling and the SEL program, through the SEL curriculum.
Well, we talk about the kids' social emotional need. How do you think your teacher morale is? This is real difficult.
And we've been trying to work on that. We do have a potluck scheduled on Wednesday, and I'm asking my brother to smoke some brisket for us, and so we do try to provide those types of incentives and just try to support each other as best as we can. Because it is a trying year, it's a difficult year for everybody, and there's a lot of mental that goes into it, especially if you have students being out for this or that in quarantine and even themselves being out. So it's a trying year, it's proven to be a difficult year. And then to meet these expectations as far as, student achievement, and they have this big foundational gap. I'm excited that got approved for our phonics program.
Thank you.
So that's what we got excited about.
Yes, I, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Last campus, Mrs. Guerrero.
Actually, I don't think I ever will know because I'm the campus that doesn't STAR test. So therefore, you will not see threshold jumping. There is a typo on our CBA data on pre-K3 on meets. On my keypad, the 9 should not be a 9, it should be a 6. We are at 65%, not 95%. I wish, but it is incorrect. Right here? No, it's 95, it's 65. So I apologize, but this is our content-based assessments for pre-K3, pre-K4, and kindergarten for reading and math that we administer at the end of each, according to the assessment calendar that's outlined by the district. And the percentage of students who are approaches, meets, and masters on those assessments. Ms. McNeil is gonna go over in-class data.
Okay, on this one, it's 2 and 3, but on your packet, I think 79 and 80, maybe? I took the information, in page 79 and 80, and I created this user-friendly data table. So on this table, you're going to see the composite score for the 5 skills that MCAS test. We administer this test, boy, moy, and oi. We met with Ms. Briones last week, and Ms. Briones recommended for us to administer this test again, but to take out the time factor. Because MClass is a timed assessment. The student gets 1 minute to read as many letters as they can, to segment as many words as they can, to look at a nonsense word and try to decode it and then read it. It's a 1 minute test. So we removed that time factor and we progress monitored those students who fell a tier 3 and tier 2 students. So if you take a look at your table on the composite score, you will see MOI and then you will see PM for progress monitoring. When we administered MOI, we had 41 students at tier 1. When we progress monitored, that number decreased to 29%. So what we noticed was that our students are successful on the skills, but it's the time factor that's affecting them. They're not as fluent. So when our teachers sat down and created their action plans, that was one of their plans, that they needed to start doing drills in their classroom, 1 minute drills with their students, so that when they take the OI test, they'll be more fluent, hopefully. So if we take a look at tier 3 students, MOI again, 41 students were at tier 3. When we progress monitored last week, 29 students. Tier 2 students, 23 were a tier 2 student in MOI. When we progress monitored last week, 10 students. When we administered the test in MOI, we had 40 students at a tier 1. When we progress monitored last week, we had 60 students at a tier 1. You guys want to take a look at the skills, and if you have any questions?
And the reason that MClass does do the 1 minute time test is that's basic teaching of reading, is you need to have random access speed. So it's a skill that we're trying to spiral down as best as we can with our 3 and our 4-year-olds, so that they can name things rapidly, because that makes them more fluent readers once they've broken the code. All right, our iStation data. All I can say for Pre-K is, we introduced iStation to our 3-year-olds in January and February. And so that's that, because it's been interesting with 3-year-olds. This is our kinder data, which is a lot more authentic. We weren't at 100% tested when we pulled the data though. You can see that by the number of students tested. And then the growth, again, the 3-year-olds kind of look a little bit more like a scatter plot. Because pre-K is 3 and 4-year-olds. So now when we're looking at our iStation data, we're pulling it by homeroom and having homeroom conversations on individual students because I can't look at it as a grade level. Kinder, trend lines are moving up. We did have a fluke in January that we're trying to figure out when it comes to the math data. We figuring that out. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 numbers, basically the same you've seen with me throughout. It's, we do this as a part of our RTI staffing. The data we look at for pre-K4 is their CLI engaged data, their iStation data, their CBA data. We're trying to make sure it's all aligned with the data sources. And the same for kinder with CLI engaged and class.
So then we reached out to LDZ and we asked what were some of the teaks that they were targeting. So they gave us a list for ELAR. When we scaffold down, these are the corresponding teaks at kinder. These are the scores when they've taken the CBA or when they're going to take the CBA. These are the corresponding teaks or guidelines for pre-K. These are their scores. And if you notice, some of the teaks we have no corresponding guidelines for pre-K. This is the reading. Do you want to go? And then the same thing for math. And if you notice here, there are 4 teaks that LDC is targeting. There are no corresponding teaks or guidelines in kinder or in pre-K. Yeah.
So how do you test a kindergarten? Is it paper, pencil, nomás?
What we do is we use Texas.
The state, how does the state do it?
Oh, well, the state, we do early childhood data submission for pre-K and kindergarten, which is what we submit to the state. And the state-approved test is MClass. It's also our state-approved dyslexia screener. And then for pre-K, it's the CLI Engage. It is not a paper pencil. It's a teacher-administered where the child is looking at items or it's word problems that are given orally and the child has to solve the problems that way. Yeah. And then we had each teacher, once all of our middle of the year data was complete, each homeroom teacher looked at their data as a grade level and then individually and created action plans. And then one of the tasks that was assigned by Ms. Briones is for the campus administrative team to come up with an action plan as well. We were looking at strengths, which there are some, weaknesses, which there are plenty, and then how we're going to strategically address each of them for each grade level and as a campus. With pre-K3, we're really, really hitting vocabulary hard because historically vocabulary is something that's really hitting us as we go through. They just don't have the academic content. Oral language and communication, having children understand how to have typical conversations, problem solving, justifying their responses. Parents are killing us asking why. We want all of our 3-year-olds to constantly be asking why. We're also focusing a lot on social emotional learning and just getting them used to the process of schools. Pre-K4, it's a lot of auditory when it comes to our phonological awareness skills. Getting the students to be able to hear sounds and manipulate sounds, whether it's compound words and breaking them apart and putting them together or blending onset rhyme, understanding rhyming words, counting syllables, alliteration. And then kinder, same skills, but now we're going to introduce phonics. We're going to introduce the print and how to manipulate it with magnetic letters. So, math, we're feeling pretty confident. The kids are really picking up and pretty strong in math. The ones that are not, it's because they struggle with the basic concepts, so that's going to be handled through Tier 3 pull-out. We do have a Tier 3 pull-out for kinder during our intervention block, so that the teacher stays with an aid with Tier 1 and Tier 2. And pre-K3 and pre-K4, For the students who are identified as tier 3, the teachers are pushing into centers to do 1 or 2 student game-based activities that target the skills that they're struggling with.
So is the iStation really working? I mean, honestly, is it really working?
For 3-year-olds, I'm not ready to say yes on that yet.
And the reason I'm asking, it's okay to say if it's not working, because if it's not working, so we can find something else.
I would like to defer to all the other principals. I have been an iStation user for years. I firmly believe in iStation and the research behind iStation if it is done and administered correctly. That's the important part. If you're looking at the data and doing interventions the way you're supposed to, it is a great predictor of reading and math success when done correctly. But in order to administer these exams, you need a 45-minute block. And we don't always, kids have to hit restart, which is extremely frustrating. I had to get rid of iStation for a district decision. So I'm kind of glad it's back because it gives me another correlating data piece that is game-based, which I'm a big proponent of learning through games. So for me, it works. It's great for ISIP, which is early intervention. I can't speak to the older grades because I have not administered iStation for the older grades.
And the reason I have my doubts about iStation, because we used to have, when I was at the college, called the Play-Doh lab. What we found out there in the Play-Doh lab, we had students go on their own, try to do the assessments, try to do the modules and all that stuff. But we figured out it wasn't working. They were still, when they got to the college level, college algebra class, they weren't passing.
Oh, wow.
They weren't passing, so we were trying to figure out, okay, what's going on? So we went back to old school teaching, sitting down the students, ask it, do it on the board, do it, doing the long way, and then we saw an increase. Students started passing, they started passing back then was task or whatever, and then when it came to the TSI and all that stuff, so that's why I have my doubts about these, when you sit down a student on a computer, and then you're just,
It's not an intervention piece.
So you don't have a say-so in this, it's just something you're told to do? If you had your rather, you would...
I understand the data piece. It is not a teacher. The teacher is your #1 best tool when it comes to intervention. This to me is a data piece to say, okay, what they're making on CBAs, what they're making on iStation, and what they're making on MClass, is it all aligned? Is the data speaking to each other? Because it just gives you, I guess, a better opportunity to see where are the kids' strong points and low points. And what we found when we did the data disaggregation is, if I had a child who was struggling with decoding skills on MClass, guess what? They were struggling on PA skills in iStation, and then when we pulled the CBA data, boom, it was right there too. So we saw an alignment. So to me, it's not an intervention, it's a practice and a way to kind of see and gouge each month, because I can't wait for Boy and EOA for data. I need it more frequently to make sure the kids are progressing. Any other questions?
No, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Briones, yes, I have a question, and I don't think it's deviating from the agenda because it's about scores and ultimate what's going to happen when we get our rating. I believe it's every March or every April, the superintendent makes the decision whether or not to keep a campus that does not test what campus they're going to. Yeah. Are you going to make the decision to leave them as Zavala this year?
That is not the recommendation.
Okay. I mean, the way I look at it, this is going to be a really, really, really hard year.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that if things don't go the way we want, why do we want 2 schools in IR?
Sure.
We don't have to have it.
Yes, the pairing happens, I believe, in April or in May.
Okay.
But this school year.
Okay, moving on to item 10, informational items. A, parent organization guidelines.
The parent organization guidelines, as discussed last month, this is to provide structure to our clubs, including the athletic and band booster clubs. And so what we asked the attorneys is to create administrative guidelines, because one of the concerns that we're getting, and it's really not anything that the district is in charge of right now, simply because it was decided this way sometime back, we don't have the boosters under the district. And so it is very difficult for us to answer questions in terms of how much money, what are the bank statements, because we don't regulate that. And so what we are asking the district, it does not require a board decision, this is just something that we can go ahead and get started with already, is to support us in implementing these guidelines with all the clubs. That way we can regulate how much, so what is it that they're asking for donations and what profit they're making from these donations so that we can keep track of their spending. So that if a parent comes to us and is asking for expenditures, we can attest to that. If they're asking for revenues, we can attest for that as well. Right now, it is very difficult for us to be able to answer to the revenues and expenditures of any club. We would have to direct them to the presidents of those clubs. So we're asking that the district take them over so that we can begin looking at.
I don't think in all my years on the school board, I've seen a bank statement overdrawn. I do not think I have ever seen that.
And when can we do this, Ms. Briones?
And in speaking to Mr. Cruz, he says that we are ready to start implementing the policy, and you have a policy attached to it. It's
The DC local.
it's a GE legal that speaks to parent organizations. So if there's any change to this policy, because all of these booster clubs fall under parent organizations, if there's any change to policy, then we would have to bring it back next month for board approval. If the policy is going to remain as is, then we can go ahead and start implementing the guidelines effective tomorrow. We would have to meet with the different organizations, the different representatives, to let them know that this is the direction that the district is going.
We're talking about the boosters only, or what?
All of the organizations, all of the parent-teacher organizations affiliated with the school district. Yes?
I think we should control it as much as we can.
I agree.
B, more policy, DC local.
So we are fixing to begin our job fair cycle. Principals and district office personnel have been designated to participate in the different job fairs. Those are going to be under Mrs. Garcia. We do want to remind the board, and I'm bringing this before you in case you want to consider either amending, changing, or keeping DC local, that as of December 16, 2021, you gave the superintendent the authority to employ contractual personnel in the following positions: classroom teacher, school nurse, speech pathologist, and speech teacher between April 1st to August the 31st, which is when we recruit.
I think we should, because by the time the board meets to approve it, some of those people have gone on and got another job.
So again, if no change to the policy, then we continue as such. And as we start working on our job fairs, we know that that is something that we're good to go.
Yes. C.
Class decision 4, this is the grow your own under the grant that we've been discussing. This is a sample MOU, and I provided this for you so that you could take a look at it. This is an MOU that is coming directly from TEA, so we do not have the ability to modify it in any which way. So this speaks to very specific, and we already have our designees. We have 6 designees that we've already submitted to the state. And so this is going to be the schedule of payments, and it speaks to the number of years of academic practice, including the years of service to the district, if they so should enter into contract with the district under T-class decision 4. But we have 6 candidates already. Their names have been submitted.
And the council will be classroom teachers
They are all
or counselors?
paraprofessionals.
Counselors or?
No, for T-class, it's paraprofessionals.
Paraprofessionals, okay.
So paraprofessionals going into like a bachelor's degree?
Yes.
But it has to be to education?
It has to be in education. They have to be, not only do they have to receive their bachelor's, but they also have to be state certified by May of 2025. Then,
Say they go through the program, is there anything there stated or that, you know what, we helped you out, you need to stay 5-6 years?
4 years.
4 years?
Yes.
4 years.
That's a commitment they make to us.
Correct.
On the Zavala County appraisal. Any questions from that appraisal?
The only thing that I would like to point out here is that we are at we're at 92% collection, so that's good for March. So we're good here.
E-business office.
No, we're good. If you all don't have any questions, we're good with the rest.
F on food service report. I have a concern there that I think I told the secretary to check. I think the last 2 or 3 weeks, I mean, the kids are getting cereals for breakfast. Is that all they can serve, or?
No, and I did visit with Mr. Garcia, and I did follow up with an email to you. I asked him to spiral the menus, and so.
Somebody was hearing from parents, cereals, and so, well, that's taken care of.
Yes.
Okay, the police report, any questions on? And on the boosters?
Well, we have no, they didn't submit it.
And then they will service, it's there.
Well, this is the bank statement that they submitted for us.
And that's, the booster, it shows that they only have about
$81.
$81.
And again, I can't track their
Yeah.
transactions, but this is what they submitted, so this will be published.
And then legal,
Balance $43.85.
$43.85.
and then we have the information on legal. Any questions on that? No. So I guess we're ready into closed session. Okay, at this time, CrystalCity, we're gonna go into closed session. The Board of Trustees will meet in closed sessions pursuant to Texas Open Meeting Act and Texas Government Code, Section 551.
Recording stopped.
.074,
personal matter.
Do you want to sit here, or do you want to go over there?
Go over there, we're breaking.
I think so.
I don't think